10th, 2016. We will have an invocation by Pastor Melvin Simpson of the First Church of God in Christ. After that, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag.
Most kind and gracious Father God, we thank you, God, for all your many blessings. We thank you, God, that you woke us up this morning, that we was clothed in our right minds. And Lord, tonight, Lord, as we pray, Lord, we ask you to bless our city, bless our leaders, Lord. Be with each and every one of us, Lord Jesus. Bless us and show us the way to go, Lord. God, we need your help as always, and bless us tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. All right, for our consent agenda, it includes the City Commission meeting minutes for Tuesday, April 26, 2016, and the 2016 appropriation ordinance number AO1609 in the amount of $3,131,642.93. Ordinance number S1605, the second reading of an ordinance to rezone property located at 715 North Buckeye from R2 to R4. And ordinance S1606, the second reading of an ordinance to rezone property located at 2649 North Highway 169 from M Mobile Home Court to C4 Service Commercial. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. No.
Motion was made by Mayor Powell and seconded by Commissioner Taylor to approve the consent agenda as presented. Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Mayor Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
We also have 2016 appropriation ordinance number AO1609A in the amount of $491.31. And I will also move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion was made by Mayor Powell and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve ordinance number AO-16-09A, and that's a payment to Taylor Crane. Mayor Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye. Was abstain.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye. All right, tonight we do have a fire department award presentation, and Fire Chief James Grimmett will make that presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I would ask that Kevin Midget and Jake Dean join me at the podium. It was on March the 7th of 2016 the Coffeyville Fire Department responded to 709 East 3rd to a reported structure fire with the possibility that people were still inside. I arrived with the first units and observed black turbulent smoke coming from the living room window. As crews deployed an attack line, firefighter Jake Dean entered the apartment. His assignment was to begin the primary search, which is a rapid and systematic search of the fire area first, looking for victims. Once the truck was set up, driver Kevin Midget joined the search while also trying to locate the seat of the fire. It was at this time the father arrived and advised us that his two kids were in the front bedroom. Their assignment changed to now find those two children. Conducting a search is one of the most dangerous activities firefighters can perform. This search was successful and both children were rescued. So I want to recognize these two firefighters, not because they performed above and beyond, but because they did exactly what our mission says we will do. It says we will provide the highest level of fire and life safety services to the residents of Coffeyville. Well done.
So Kevin, Jake, I'd like to know, a little, just 1 minute's worth of story. When you got there, was the place full of smoke? Tell us about it real quick, if you would.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to be speaking. Yeah, when we got there was a lot of smoke. The fire had kind of smothered itself, and it was hot, but it wasn't, real hot. But it was pitch black. So when I went in and I was looking for fire, any type of glow, I couldn't find it because it had snuffed itself out, but it was real smoky. So when Kevin went in and found the kids, he found the room with them, and I heard him say, I found them. So I knew for sure there were victims in there. And I went to where I heard his voice. And then by the time I got back to the room, he had already come back because he knew right where they were. And he grabbed that one, and I had the hose line, and we kind of got wedged in the door, so I knew where the way out was. So I kind of nudged, pushed him out like, you got to go.
We figured out just talking. It was about 45 seconds by the time we entered that we had both children out and was on their way to the EMS and stuff. It was honestly by the grace of God that we found them so quick. I mean, it was real weird. It's one of them things that every firefighter wants to live but never wants to live. I don't care if I ever do it again, honestly. I mean, I will, but I don't care to. We train a lot, and that helped out a lot. So that was a big thing there.
So the smoke, was it coming down from the ceiling?
It was banked all the way to the floor.
Yeah.
It was probably the thickest smoke I've ever been in, but it wasn't the hottest fire I've ever been in. So it was kind of an unusual situation.
Smothered itself. So the children did inhale some black smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever the first one I handed off to Captain Bastion at the door, had a lot of soot around its face, which was understandable with that kind of situation. The second one was completely unresponsive. I mean, it was so, and I handed it off to Chief Grimmin at the bottom of the stairs. So, but like I said, it was just grace of God that we found him so quick in training.
Thanks for the,
You're a credit to the department and a credit to our community, and we appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, we will now have comments from the public. The public is free to comment on items not listed on the agenda. In addition, public participation is welcome and encouraged for all items on the agenda as the topics are discussed. Please address comments to the commission as a body and be mindful of others who may also wish to speak by limiting your comments to 3 minutes.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Just one item for this evening. Call it same song, 14th verse. In February, I asked where are we as far as codification of the city ordinances, and the response at that time was we should have something in a month. Well, that was 3 months ago, so I still see on the city website that it says still in work. So where are we? When will those city ordinances be finally codified, put together, and then published so that citizens can see all of our city ordinances on the city website?
good question, Jim.
How about a good answer?
We're looking for one here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's primarily my project, and we continue to make progress. I took a week, I believe, in March to go over and spent time on it. There are 50 chapters total, plus the charter ordinances. I think I've made it through 44 of those. We still have a few to go, and I still have input to get from staff, but we are making progress.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you coming and asking.
The goal that we've set is for August of 2016. That was part of our strategic plan. One of the items that we specified was to have codification complete by August of this year. So after the review on our part, then we'll send it off to the attorneys to have them formalize it and reword it, send it back for us to review again and make the final approval. So it's a tedious process. Sorry, Mary.
Thank you,
That's
gentlemen.
fine. Mary Wilson. I have had two people this week ask me about the farmer's market. Yes, the farmer's market is open. My proof is the rolls that you have in front of you. They're from the farmer's market. Okay? Farmers Market is on Tuesday afternoon from 4 until 7. It is on Saturday morning from 7 until 11. It meets at the Walter Johnson Park by the Pecan Grove. And they use the side of the pecan grove that gives them the most shade. Not only is the importance of the farmers market, it allows the farmers to get their produce to the consumer direct, but it also serves a function that you probably never thought of. Some of our farmers have had heart attacks and other health issues, and so they need to be out among people to recover. Sitting in a chair in the home won't do it. And so we really serve a bunch of vendors that way that you may have never known about. And I just wanted you to know, it is open. They don't have much yet. The weather didn't cooperate. They're still planning. But I have gotten some of the best spinach to eat. And, of course, all sorts of breads and eggs, including duck eggs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. All right. There's no more comments from the public. We do not have any old business, so we will move on to new business, starting with ordinance number S-1607, the first reading of an ordinance to rezone property located at 1000 South Gillum from R1 Single Family Residential to C4 Service Commercial for the purpose of constructing a police and fire emergency facility. Architect Dennis Jacobs will make comments.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Last November, Planning Commission met and heard the request by the City of Coffeyville to rezone the property that they owned, which is the east half of the parcel that McKinley School was originally sited on. At that meeting, the presentation was made concerning the new emergency services facility and the request to rezone that property from residential, which it had been even during the McKinley School time, to C4. This was done primarily because the Planning Commission has had a goal, as long as I've been involved in it, to rezone the highway frontage to service commercial, which is in keeping with our comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission has evolved over the last 15 or so years. They at one time wanted to blanket rezone all of 11th Street as highway frontage. There were enough residential property owners on 11th Street still that the decision was made and the policy followed to only take those cases as they were presented to the Planning Commission and then recommend that that be rezoned on an individual basis rather than as blanket zoning. And so we have followed through with that over the course of the last 12 or 15 years and have rezoned parcels. You've had a couple that have come up earlier this year and last year in the block adjacent to this block that was residential, had homes on it that were either abandoned or were being used as rentals. And they were purchased by a local businessman and cleared the site and rezoned it to a service commercial. And we've done that periodically all along the highway frontage. This is in keeping with that. The use for a city services building is in agreement with the C4 zoning classification. And so and last November, we brought the east parcel before the Planning Commission, and your next agenda item is the west parcel. They were done separately because we didn't own the property on the west at the time. We had permission from the current, at that time, property owner on the east parcel to act on his behalf, and so we moved forward at that time. The second agenda item that you have is for the west parcel, and we held off on it until we owned the property itself outright. There had been a title issue with it, and so we have held off until tonight to bring both of these parcels to you for review and recommendation from the Planning Commission for approval.
Okay. Can we do both of them at the same time? Okay.
context to that, we can. Any questions, Mr. Jacobs? All right, well, I'll move to approve ordinance S-1607 and S-1608.
Motion was made by Mayor Powell and seconded by Commissioner Williams to approve ordinances number S-16-07 and ordinance number S-16-08 for first reading. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Mayor Powell.
Aye. Thank you. Resolution R-1668, a resolution to authorize exchange of federal funds for state funds through the Kansas Department of Transportation Federal Fund Exchange Program. Public Works Director Chuck Shively will make comments.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, beginning in 2011, the Kansas Department of Transportation implemented a program called the Federal Fund Exchange Program, which allocates a portion of the state's federal funds directly to cities and counties each year based on their population. Unfortunately, since the program uses federal funds, all projects paid with those funds have to have all of the federal strings attached, such as Davis-Bacon wage rates, federal labor standards, federal right-of-way acquisition requirements, and environmental review requirements. But through the Federal Fund Exchange Program, KDOT will exchange those federal funds at 90 cents on the dollar for state funds, which don't have those federal strings attached. Then the city can spend the state funds on almost any transportation project we choose, and KDOT will use the federal funds on one of their large federal projects that already have the federal strings attached. Our federal funds this year are $121,220.02. If we exchange them for the state funds, it'll be $109,098.02, which is fortunately slightly more than the $109,018.08 that we budgeted as revenue from the federal fund exchange in our Transportation Capital Improvement Program. So I recommend that you approve the resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the master agreement and the request to exchange federal funds. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
That was a lot, Chuck. What are we're changing these, tell us in simple, short, why are we doing this?
Well, we're getting the federal funds from the state. Used to be we had to compete for a large grant, and you'd get one maybe once every 10 years. Well, the state decided instead of doing that, they would take those competition programs and they would divide it up among the cities and counties based on their population every year. So instead of waiting 10 years and trying to get one big grant, you get a small grant every year. But it's federal money, and federal projects have a lot of strings attached. I keep using that, but I mean,
If you stick with the federal.
they have there's a rule of thumb that they use that federal requirements can easily add more than 20% to the cost of small projects, depending on the size of the project. Small project that you could do for $122,000, it'd probably be more than 20% in state or in federal requirements.
Because of the regulation. So, I guess I'm a little slow.
We trade the money with the state. The state uses the federal money for a statewide federal.
Because they're
project.
already doing federal projects, they just
give
put
us
that
90
money
cents on the
into
dollar,
those.
and it doesn't have strings
I got
attached.
you, okay.
And the federal dollars have to be on specific streets, restricted to projects eligible as federal aid projects. So only specific approved projects would be eligible, and then we'd have to track them closely, and if we did anything wrong, we could lose the funds entirely.
I think Chris answered my question, but why we're doing this, you're giving the detail, that's good. I'm good, thank you, Chuck.
Any further questions?
You want me to make the resolution?
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution R-16-68.
Motion was made by Commissioner Taylor and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-16-68 for adoption. Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Mayor Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
All right, Resolution R-1669, a resolution to execute an agreement with Whitaker and Associates for Southwire Building Occupant Recruitment. Okay. City Manager Kendall Francis will make comments.
Mayor and Commission, yeah, I'm stepping in for Tricia tonight, who is ill. So before you is a resolution to hire Whitaker and Associates for to assist in the occupant recruitment of the Southwire building. This is an item that we brought before you, I believe, a couple of last meeting or 2 meetings before that. As you're aware, we have previously purchased a database of businesses who are actively looking to expand or relocate. But those were logistics businesses that were more tailored for the Amazon building. And we believe that to help in our recruitment, it would be important to have this database that's geared towards manufacturing companies. And again, they've been vetted, and we know that they are looking to expand, and they're ranked in their likelihood to relocate or expand to Coffeyville. The cost is $5,000 for the database of 100 businesses. And if one of those businesses from that list were to purchase and relocate to Southwire, then we'd be responsible for an additional $7,500, which we have spoken to Colliers, which is the real estate agent for Southwire. They've agreed that if that were to occur, that they would split that cost with the city. So up front, we would be...
They're going to split the $7,500 or the whole thing?
The $7,500. The initial $5,000 would be on the city. That is something that we have budgeted for this year, but we chose to bring it to your before you for your approval. So no new appropriations are needed, and the $7,500 is only if and when a company off that list should relocate to the Southwire building.
All right, so that I understand from our previous conversations, this list is basically just scrubbing a database and qualifying leads that are potential fits.
Yes.
For the building. It does not include any active engagement on their part. All of the work still falls to us to do marketing and outbound.
Yes. Cold calling, so to speak.
And you feel we are qualified to do that, or staff to do that?
Yes, I believe that we are. And some of this was prior to my arriving here. We've done that between us and the Montgomery County Action Council, that we've spent a considerable amount of time with that list as it regards to Amazon. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, nothing is yet to materialize there.
That's why I asked the question, because I was just, we have a scenario where we're already doing it.
Correct.
Obviously, they're different buildings, different industries, and all of that, I understand. So the owner is unwilling, do they not want to sell their building, or are they not willing to spend some money too? Why are we footing the bill for everything?
I can't speak to whether they want to sell their building or not. I know that they do and probably have a price that they just aren't willing to go below. I'll be honest, I haven't been privy to the conversations between Tricia and Colliers as to their reasonings.
So what if we buy the list and then the building sells and they reimburse us for the $5,000 that we spent to sell their building?
That is something we could approach them there.
I'm just wondering why, if they own it, we're spending all of our resources and money to try to sell their building. It doesn't.
Well, we believe that it's going to be.
I understand the benefits it has for our community. I'm not arguing that at all. I just wonder why they have no buy-in on selling their property.
That's a good question.
We talked, but I remember what I said last time, Kendall.
And that's why we went back to them and asked them about cost sharing, and they did agree to cost share the second half should the building sell.
Okay, well, the only thing I could vote for on it, the best I could do, guys, is we do half the 5,000 if you want to do it. That's the best I could do. I don't know that it's that good a deal to start with, but I think I mentioned this last time.
Yes.
Did you try that? Did you try that? What I asked? I suggested that we send them a letter that says we'll pay half of the 5,000, and then we'd pay half of the 7, or something more like that, a little more to our benefit.
Okay.
I
It's
think
my understanding.
that's what I asked.
It's my understanding that Colliers has their own database that they're operating off of, and is why they were not willing to go the half of the initial 5,000.
Will they have access to our database?
No, that'll be something we own.
What does the Montgomery County Action Council do? Isn't this kind of their responsibility?
And they do assist with that.
We give them quite a bit of money.
But we're giving them
25,000,
$25,000 a year,
I believe.
which I think is that not the highest contributor to their funds? Or if not, it's equal to the highest contributor. And I would think that them being the center of the recruiting,
Montgomery County Action, that's Montgomery, what's the name of that?
Montgomery County Action Council.
Right.
I would think as them being the recruiter or the face of the recruiting, job of Montgomery County, that they would be interested in jumping on this thing.
Maybe we could split it three-way.
And we can go back and explore those other options.
I would like to see some more discussion happen on
Okay.
other people buying in on it so that it doesn't fall solely to us. That's my opinion.
And the other thing is that this building is in the city?
No,
So it's in the county?
it's in the industrial park, but it is outside the city
So
limits.
where's the economic incentive for the county to jump on board on this thing too? No, what I see is we need to recruit businesses here.
Correct.
Okay? But I see us being the lone recruiter.
And again, while I'm confident in you and Tricia's abilities, your primary job is not to cold call people off of the list.
No,
so
I
our
understand
ability to recruit, it's not our primary function every day.
My envision is that you have a team, and that we have a team of the city of Coffeyville, the county, Montgomery County Action Council, and all these folks together working on a goal that we're recruiting businesses to Coffeyville, Montgomery County, the Southeast Kansas region in Montgomery County. But I'm just keep seeing a lot of the burden being placed on the citizens of Coffeyville to keep funding these like the last time, I don't remember the name of them, but the recruiting business that we were exploring teaming up with.
Buxton?
Yes, outstanding, very good. And now this, and I think that maybe they're doing the same thing, these other entities. I don't know, but I would like to have that information.
Well, I know as far as to speak to the cold calling, for lack of a better term, that work is going to be split up between what I deem as our economic development team, not only Trish and I, but MAC, Chamber of Commerce. But as far as the financial buy-in, I can't speak to that as well. And we can absolutely go back and explore some other options if you want to table it at this time.
I'd like to do.
If we split it up, it's a pretty small price for everybody in the county is going to benefit from it.
Yeah. And I know We'll speak to the county. When we have been courting businesses, the county has more than stepped up on their part, as far as incentives that they've offered to help lure businesses.
Right. Well,
These partners-
incentives are good, but, cash paid out of your account is different than
understand.
the hypothetical incentive.
These partnerships need to be forged between the entities is
Yep.
my main focus. Just like we partnered on that pictometry.
Okay.
So it works both ways.
Well, I'm with you guys, I'm not too crazy about the thing myself. I don't know how many cities, would do something like that. I've never heard of it, but I'm not really in city government till now, so, I just don't think that many cities do it. Does anybody know about any other cities doing that?
I'm sure it happens sometimes.
Yes,
would
I
imagine
understand why. We got interest here, we got.
Sure. You can't argue the benefits of filling the
Right.
building. I mean, that's not.
I move that we table the action until the next meeting.
A second.
Second.
Just a
Third.
question real quick from me. Go ahead.
Could I ask that we would table it until the first meeting in June?
Yes. To give you time to negotiate.
Well, but also Tricia and I will be attending the ICSC conference and we will not be here at the next meeting.
We got plenty of time, typically.
First meeting in June.
Motion was made by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Mayor Powell to table this item until the first meeting in June.
The 13th, I believe, is when that is.
That's,
14.
that
14,
wasn't
excuse
my
me,
motion
14.
at all. I didn't, there was a motion on the floor that we table it into the next meeting. My question is, I have a question on the rules of order. Can you table a item until a specific meeting, or does it have to go to the next meeting?
You can
It's
specify
either the
date.
next meeting or you can table it to a very specific
Specific
date.
That's right. Okay. Then I will send my original motion and make a motion that we table this until the
June 13th.
June 13th. 14th.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Mayor Powell. Is that correct?
That's fine.
To table item I-4 until the June 14th meeting. Mayor Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Didn't he want to say, I'm not going to vote on this. Didn't you have something to say before we?
I did, but it's not, it's not.
Well, we completely just
Yeah,
skipped over
we
what he
forgot
had
him. We
to say.
forgot him. I would have said something.
My question was, what makes this so much more, what makes the Southwire building more acquirable, make people want to buy it than the Amazon? Because we've had trouble with the Amazon. What makes you think people are going to want
Well, the
Southwire?
different needs, Southwire was built more for manufacturing. It's designed more for manufacturing. There is about 100,000 square foot of it that is more geared towards warehousing, whereas Amazon was built for logistics and distribution. And so two different types of companies are going to be looking at those buildings.
What's the size? You got 900,000 versus what?
400,000.
Yeah, it's twice the size of the building. It's like,
So,
And it's not wrapped up in litigation.
there is that as well.
That's a big,
Yeah.
big deal.
That's what I was wondering, because we've had such a hard time doing that one. I don't want to waste money and not be able to get something.
And the asking price is substantially greater for Amazon.
Okay. That's all I had.
I vote yes.
Are we ready?
yeah.
The motion was made by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Mayor Powell to table item I-4 until the June 14th meeting. Mayor Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
All right, Resolution R16-70, a resolution to execute an amendment to an oil and gas lease with MB Holdings LLC. City Attorney Paul Kreitz will make comments.
Mayor Commissioner, I'll step in again for this time. Before you is a resolution to amend an oil and gas lease with MB Holdings LLC. It's Brian Allen and Levi Holt. I almost forgot your name. Back in September of last year, we executed the lease on some existing oil and gas wells, and that they were going to come in and rehab those wells and make them productive and clean up the area, which I went out and toured, I don't know, a couple of months ago now, and apparently they never sleep because they've done a lot of work with two of them in a short amount of time, and but after executing that initial lease, we found out we inadvertently left out some of those wells, and we'd like to amend this lease to include those. There won't be any new wells drilled, but they're rehabbing existing wells.
Okay.
They are present, obviously, if you have any questions for them, but they've done above and beyond everything they've said that they would do.
Nothing's changed in the lease agreement. We're just adding additional.
Actually adding a little bit of land that they wanted because they excluded some old wells that they want to rehab, but also giving up some land along Ferl-Schmidt Drive, which I think is beneficial to us in case there's any industrial development along that area.
The price of oil is what when you guys went into this agreement versus now? I know it's $44 or
Well,
something.
actually, up here in Kansas, price is probably about $37 or $38.
And what was it when we went into the agreement? How's that gonna affect your deal? I just wondered.
No, we
no.
won't do it.
Huh?
We're doing fine. We have other production other than just this lease, and the whole goal is to get them all going and make them
So none of them are going yet?
No, there's 6 of them going, but we have a problem right now is when we drew the lease up, we have to register every well with the state of Kansas. Well, our lease agreement didn't have the acreage right with the wells, so we couldn't put all our get all our wells, what they call them is T1, and they have to put them on the Colar account, and it's all GPSed out, and our lease didn't match our wells. So
I got it. If all else fails, read the instructions.
Yeah.
Non-legal stuff.
Yeah. We just didn't have the right acreage listed on our lease to where the wells.
I got you. Brian, Levi?
Any other questions?
Nope.
I move to approve Resolution R-1670 for adoption.
Second. Marcus got it.
Motion was made by Mayor Powell and seconded by Commissioner Castler to approve resolution number R-16-70 for adoption. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Mayor Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, guys, is it producing oil now, you say? Some?
As soon as we get this paperwork straightened out, it is the
That's
flip
it.
of the switch.
Yep.
Yes.
We've already made some, we just have to turn her off, and as soon as this is done, we
Yeah.
get to jump right back into it.
Yeah, we just, the state requires us to have all this paperwork done before we
Okay.
can produce it, and
Okay.
they had us on a time period where we were producing, and
It's
then
on
we
there.
figured out our lease was wrong, so we
Okay.
had to shut it off, and
Where will that oil end up going?
to the
Right
refinery.
out here? Okay, good.
Yes.
Well, good luck with it, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Resolution R-16-72, a resolution to execute an agreement with GST Power Services for electrical testing for the electric utility. Deputy Director Mike Shipp will make comments.
Never mind.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. The first item I have for you this evening is the electrical testing contract for the new generation project. And if it pleases the commission thereafter, I'd like to give you just a real brief update on the project as well.
Great.
The utility used a competitive bid process to seek quotes to perform electrical testing for the new project. Proposals were received from a total of 5 firms to perform these services as specified by Burns & McDonnell. GST Power Services Group had the lowest bid. All bids were reviewed and evaluated by Burns McDonnell staff as well as city staff. I've attached a bid summary analysis with the staff report in your packet for your review. Therefore, staff recommends the mayor be authorized to enter into an agreement with GST Power Services Group to perform electrical testing for the new generation project as specified by Burns McDonnell in the amount of $113,175. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
Was this in the original budget kind of deal, or what?
Absolutely, it is in the
Okay.
budget.
Okay, so why do we have to approve it if it's already approved?
Every contract has to be approved
Oh, it
by
does?
the city
Okay.
commission, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? I move to approve Resolution R1672 for adoption.
Motion was made by Mayor Powell and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-16-72 for adoption. Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Mayor Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye. All right, you had an update on the
I
project?
do have, just I'll be very brief. And I will mention, last week, electric utility staff, Gene Ratzloff, myself, and Don Onslager attended the Kansas Municipal Utilities Annual Conference in Wichita, and we did give a brief presentation on our project, which it was well received by there's probably over 200 in attendance. And I've placed in front of your seats there, just a little brochure that we handed out. And we've also got a couple of the picture boards here that we used for our presentation as well at that conference. I caution to say we still remain about $1.5 million under budget on the project. We still do have some outstanding change orders, but the project is approximately 60% complete. We still remain about three plus weeks ahead of schedule. We have moved 2 of the Wart Sill engines into the engine hall, and I do want to say thank you to Commissioner Taylor and Taylor Crane. I do not believe we could have made the progress that we've made had it not been for Taylor Crane and the local support. As I stated, we do have 2 engines into the engine hall. We expect to move the last engine into the engine hall probably next Monday. The mechanical installation and electrical installation are both progressing well. The pre-engineered metal building, Crossland has that contract. They're actually working on the interior portion of the building now. We have the substation construction, the electrical testing that you passed tonight, and the emission testing are items that still remain outstanding on the project. I believe Kendall mentioned at the last commission meeting that we have suffered one OSHA recordable accident at the site. Was actually an employee of Barnhart Crane, but he's doing well. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you for the report.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Commissioner.
it.
Thank you, Mike.
We also have a report about the electric department storm report from Director Gene Ratzliff.
Mayor and Commissioners, 2 weeks ago this evening, about 11 o'clock, a storm came through Coffeyville, and it was a storm that caused major problems for us because there were many, many outages all over the city. They were, most of them were trees coming down. They broke poles, put lines on the ground, that caused damages to the secondaries going to people's houses. And most of that outage was in the area from Buckeye to Union and from 16th and Maple to about 1st Street. That was the majority of the problems. There were a few areas outside of that area, including a few in the county. Our largest group of customers out was because of a broken pole on 5th Street at Holy Name Church. Had 55 customers out, including the church, the school, and the apartments on 5th Street. We also, another larger group of customers, there were 10 customers out at 16th and Maple, and all the remaining outages were less than 10 customers each. But each one of them took a lot of time to fix. We had 9 poles that were broken and had to be replaced. which meant we had to get emergency locates in so we could actually dig another hole. And in the case of the church on Fifth Street, we were able to get started about 1 o'clock on Wednesday, and they finished at about 11 p.m. Wednesday night. Took about 10 hours. In that process, we were able to get Poor Boy tree crew out about 1 o'clock Wednesday morning, and they stayed with the crews all night and all day until about midnight, and then we actually held them over another day during the week to help us get the trees out of the way. Because when we first started, had to be sure that take care of the lines that are laying in the street, to be sure they were de-energized, and then remove the trees and then be able to remove the lines. But by midnight on Wednesday, we had about, most of our people had power. There were about 30 customers that had to get electricians to work on their houses to reattach the secondaries. And that took a few days for some people. So there were a couple people, some people we turned back on Wednesday and Thursday, and there were several that we actually still turned on Friday. But most of the people were back by midnight on Wednesday. Be happy to answer any questions.
I know I got a lot of comments from several citizens, and I know that I've seen you guys out working day and night. No one really thinks about the lineman or the electricity until it's off.
That's right.
And then when it falls apart, everybody seems to realize it. I'd like to, for you to extend the thanks of myself and several other citizens throughout the community that really appreciate the hard work that you guys did during this basically a mess, for no other better words to say. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, I'll pass it on.
Thank you.
Include me too, if you will.
Okay, will do.
All right, city manager report.
All right, Mayor, Commissioners, excuse me. Just want to update you on a few things. Safe Routes to School grant that we were awarded. We're still waiting on the agreement from the state. We expect to be able to bring that to you the first meeting in June. Then once that's in place, then we'll start on the second phase of the project. Auditors were here last week. They completed their field work, and I know Stephanie put in quite a bit of time providing them with information prior to their arrival, so it made things go smoothly. We should expect the final report from them by the 1st of July. So budget sessions will be starting with department heads next week. Start meeting with them individually to talk about budgets. Along that line, there's some information in your packet regarding the tax lid legislation and how it was changed in this legislative session. Just briefly, it will be enacted in January of 2017. So we'll operate this coming budget session without a tax lid, but will go in effect January of 17. And some of the exemptions, most notably for economic development, properties that come off of abatements and things like that are going to be exempted from the tax lid. So that's a plus for cities and counties. Quite a few street projects that are underway. Fifth and Union got started last week.
Okay, let me stop you a minute.
Sure.
Properties that come off tax abatements, and what else? That property that come off tax abatements?
Yeah, they're not going to figure into the valuation for the tax lid, and so if you have a property that is just come off an IRB, 10 years off an IRB, instead of coming right onto the tax roll and being figured against us in the tax lid, they will be exempted that first year to allow us to account for those things coming in. And I haven't looked at it, but I know I provided a kind of a breakdown, a bullet point of the law as well, and I can give you the link to the entire law if you need some bedtime reading. But probably the best news that came out of it was that we at least get till January of 17 before it's enacted, where there was a strong push to move it to July of 2016, which would affect our upcoming budget. So, like I said, street projects, a lot going on. 5th and Union is closed, and it probably will for about a month, I think, is what we expect that downtime. 8th and Northeast is underway and is going well. 9th Street continues to plug along. The water line, we're about 2 weeks, probably weather permitting, from having all of those tied together and the new service lines tapped in. At the same time, Bryant is working on the curb and guttering, most notably the 3 additional blocks to the east that we've just added. They've laid approximately 400 foot of curb and gutter. And the August 15th is the expected completion deadline for the street portion of it. Then Bendewald is mobilized. We'll soon be working on the sidewalks in just the coming days. And September 15th is the expected completion date for that project. So we have a lot of activity going in a small area, so it's going to take a lot of coordination, but so far things are going well. We are finding some areas of the street, once they've milled the street all the way down to the bricks, some areas that are in badly need of repair to get a good base before we build the street. Probably more so than we anticipated. Well, definitely more so than we anticipated in some areas. So we're looking at ways that we can reduce costs in some of the other parts of the project to compensate for the street patching that we're having to do now. Excuse me. Last week we held a meeting with downtown business owners, building owners, to get their input into a comprehensive plan for the downtown area. And some of the things we discussed were the traffic lights, which is something that we have discussed here, and we're working on to bring you a plan by next month on our recommendations of what we do with the downtown traffic lights. But we also talked a lot about code enforcement, taking care of the grass, the trees, those types of things. And so it really opened up a good conversation, and I think we had maybe 25, 30 people who attended the meeting. We're going to follow up here in a couple weeks with another kind of a walking tour of downtown to try to get some ideas on how we'd move forward with a long-term plan for revitalizing downtown.
I understand some of them wanted trash cans down.
Yeah. One of the suggestions was to add additional trash cans. Very reasonable requests. The things that things that we're probably overlooking a little bit. Possibly better signage on parking. Where available parking is. Things like that we'll be addressing. We had a rating call for the bonds for the new power plant, and no action is going to be taken at this time. We're going to wait and revisit this in August once the audit has been completed, and then also substantial mechanical completion of the plant itself will be done. Then we'll have a better idea on the information that they'll need to rate us, and then it also sets us up at a better timeline for additional years when we have rating calls. The storm on Sunday hit our tower at Southern Hills, and so we at the time we'd lost one access point to our internet, and so we had about 10 customers that were without service. Fortunately, we were able to get a tower climber here within 24 hours, and they were here today and made those repairs. We will, the next time they are here, they will need to plumb and tension the tower. the high winds, and it's now out of plumb and not within their specs to allow them to climb it again, so they will be prepared to make those repairs. Just a quick mention, been trying to find a time to bring John Devine back to finalize strategic planning a little bit, and we're looking at Monday, June 6th as an early evening, a couple-hour meeting. He'll be in town looking. The plan is for him to come in that afternoon and meet with staff first for an hour or so, and then we transition right into a meeting of the whole with the commission and staff. That's the first date that we've earmarked, looked at. I'll look to you guys for some feedback as to whether or not you'll be able to look at your calendars and let us know if that's going to work. If not, we'll continue to search for a date that would be more workable, and I can maybe send out some possible suggestions on other dates. So
I got a text about 18 minutes ago asking to please fix the buzzing. Have you guys had any questions on that, Chris? Yeah, Max Williams sent in a deal. I just recognized it. Said, please fix the buzzing. I just thought I'd report to you on it. Just saw it. Sorry.
Tell Max that might be in his own head.
Yeah.
And so, again, I'll follow up with an email to you. And if you get a chance to look at your calendars and give me some feedback as to Monday, June 6th, whether that'll work. I'd like to thank everyone who participated in the parks cleanup. It was, we had probably 30 people attend, and a couple hours we made quite a noticeable difference. So thank you to all those who participated. I would entertain questions. That's really all I have.
I heard you were out there working hard with them, Ken.
I was trying.
Had a couple reports.
I was trying to keep up with Cindy.
Thank you.
All right. Comments from staff? And any comments from commissioners?
I have some questions.
Sure.
The Parks Board, where are we at on making recommendations for consolidating or making other uses for particular locations, parks?
I don't know. Well, I know that they're not ready to put out exactly the ones that are looking to consolidate. What they have done so far is to get a scatter plot of the location of kids in Coffeyville based on where they live, and trying to determine the concentration of kids, what areas they are, and what parks that they are more likely probably utilizing.
The school probably has that.
That is something that was something that was provided by the school, and so they're kind of studying that and using that, and I think maybe it's caused them to rethink a couple of. They made some assumptions, and then when they looked at that scatter plot and saw that there's probably more kids in certain areas that they weren't expecting, that they need to rethink that a little bit. And we're also talking about cost of relocating any of that equipment that is still usable. What would it take to relocate it to some other parts of the park, and just to ascertain whether it's worth the cost of moving some of those. Even though we relocate and we just had an open grass field, it's still city-owned land. We're still going to have to maintain and mow it. We just don't have that equipment in those areas. So they're being very thorough in their thought process. I don't know when the next meeting is scheduled. We typically try to have it about the first Monday, first or second Monday of the month. They've been meeting very regularly, but that's something that definitely is on on their radar, and we know that, or they know that is something that you guys expect.
Where are we at on the City Hall?
I did jot some notes down there, and again, we're kind of in a little holding pattern. May 18th, we would expect a report from PEC. They have promised a report for the designs for the HVAC system, electrical, as well as the stairway from third floor down to second. Once we have all of that, then we will take that entire package to the State Historic Preservation Office. They won't accept it piecemeal. They won't accept the windows on one plan and HVAC system and electrical. They want it all presented as one complete package. We are trying to schedule a meeting to have them come to Coffeyville, so they're on site. We'd meet with PEC and SHPO so that they can review the plans that we present to make certain before we go forward that they're okay with them. We don't want to waste time proceeding and then have them say no, that's not acceptable. I do know that Dennis has started working on finishes, starting to talk about finishes for the building, because once these plans are in place, things will move much more rapidly. There's not a lot of other excess stuff that's going to take place in there. As far as some tenants on the first floor, I've had some conversations, some follow-up conversations with County Commissioner about, Fred Brown has spoke to me about some of the things we had discussed of trying to bring some of the county county offices or to the first floor. And so that's something that we're looking into still.
Has there been an official dialogue between the city and the county on that particular issue?
Not as a whole, only through Commissioner Brown. Him and I talking, and him relaying that to the rest of the commission. And I know that he has had some legwork on his own, speaking to, I think most notably the health department.
I'd like to get a general consensus from the commissioners on whether or not we're interested in pursuing that avenue.
I mean, when we talked about it before, it makes perfect sense as a use. I mean, I would love to see that.
I'd like to get a consensus from the commission on whether or not we want to open up an official dialogue with the county as a whole to pursue that avenue.
I'd be in favor of that.
All right. Well, I will get myself on the agenda as rapidly as I can.
Police and fire.
Police and fire.
Wait, I want to say something on that. Dennis, we got our architect sitting back here. Right, well, will that be another $2 million? We'll be right back where we were before.
What are you talking about?
To remodel the first floor.
No.
That was part of the.
You're not.
We're talking about.
Not the basement, not the bottom.
Yeah, just tenant type finishes, office type space.
Right, but that's the first floor that the police were in, right?
Correct.
The bottom floor.
Correct.
Well, we do something that, we're going to spend another couple million.
I think the avenue that we.
The whole area was designed to be finished anyway, but now we would have an idea of who would come in there and how walls would be adjusted, set up.
And you'd leverage the investment against the lease agreements that you have from it.
Yeah.
If it requires anything.
Maybe we need to discuss the specifics of the agreement. My thought is that you offer them space, here's the space, design whatever you want to design. You build it to your specifications within this particular area right here. You can be there with, certain amount of rent or whatever you negotiate and pay the utilities.
Yeah. Well, and we can have a discussion on the specifics of how you want to approach it. the first avenue was to see if they even had any interest in.
Exactly.
In consolidating like that.
Well,
Okay.
I'd like to ask our architect a question. If we were to do that, what would that cost? A couple million?
You don't have no idea what they need. Yeah. You'd be speculating
Well,
on that.
well, I'd like some speculation. I mean, you know, while he's
All we're
here.
trying to figure out right now is if they even would consider coming. And then
Okay.
after we determine that, we can decide
Okay,
what
that's
that
fine.
would look like.
That's fine, guys. I'm good.
As far as your question as the standalone, the surveyors were here this last week, and again, that was something that was delayed until we owned all the property. Bids have been accepted for the geotech sampling, and by contract, they were to be on site within 10 days, so we're probably in day 5 or 6 of that. And that is something that's being handled through Crossland. They made the contact, and they are handling that aspect of it. We meet Friday with the design build team. We are, I would say, I hope to walk out of there with the final design. We've had several of those meetings where we've reviewed design of the building and made changes to the functions or the functionality or what is needed, what isn't needed. But I feel pretty confident that we're right near the end of that portion of it.
Who's on the design build team?
That's Crossland, SFS Architects.
And they're all employed by us?
They're part of that contract that we.
They're employed by us. They're.
Yes, they. Yeah.
I would.
SFS, that's the bunch.
I'd like to get a consensus from the.
It's not SF. It's not. No, it's WSKF. I apologize.
Okay.
I don't know. I had SFS on my. No, it's
Okay.
WSKF.
I'd like to get a consensus from the commission. I prefer you not coming out of that meeting without at least something, because we need to be moving.
Oh, I would agree. But we also, we want to make certain that we do it right. We got one chance to do it and do it right. And looking, we can show you the progress, how it's progressed from where we started to where we are now.
Well, then let's see that.
Okay. I can provide those.
Okay. Because I feel like we're just sitting here.
Well, I can assure you there's no one that wants to move faster than I do. But I also want to make certain that we do it right.
And I completely agree with that. I'd just like to see the progress.
Okay.
Perkins Building.
Perkins Building, I have not received anything back from the metal contractor, fabricator. I have made contact with another one who is scheduling time to come to Coffeyville to take a look at the building. Now, I will say that the leaks had been only appearing on the west side of the building. However, not this last rain. In fact, I didn't even have a chance to speak to him today, whether or not we got any leaks last night. But the one prior to that, a leak had developed on the east side of their office, over by the east set of windows. And that is something that is brand new. So again, once we have some bids in place, the idea is to try to put together something that first and foremost takes care of the leaks. The roofing contractor who installed the roof, who came here and reviewed every inch of it with Dennis, spent some time reviewing it with Dennis. The first thing that he pointed to was the obvious holes in the metal, that obvious places where water is getting in, that it's not leaking through the roof, it's leaking around the roof coating. And then when the metal fabricator was here, he confirmed what the roofing contractor said, that if you were to be on the roof and look at those decorative globes, you'll see hail damage. You'll see that they're split and wide open, allowing water to go down behind the metal. And then it looks to be that it's running down the face of the building and then coming through the sidewalls where there's room, where it's able to. So the idea was that we would start at the top and work down systematically as that metal, find places that are obvious stopping points where we could stop and then assess, once we've replaced 3 or 4 foot down and come to an obvious stopping point, that see if that has taken care of the leaks, and then if we need to continue further, we will. But to just to replace all the metal, we're probably $750,000 to $1 million, and that's right now it's just not feasible. But we need to address the leaks. We can't have the most prominent building in our city, leaking like a sieve. But from speaking to those two individuals, they believe that if we were to start at the top and work our way down, that around those globes, and those seem to be the obvious locations where water's coming in, and we think that we can do it a part at a time, and as monies come in, then we can continue to add on, continue to replace and refurbish that metal. So I guess I'm just waiting now to see some kind of numbers from those contractors that have been here to look at it.
Does not sound good.
Where are we at with our summer labor issue?
Let's see, I'm trying to think of the date. I think it's by the 15th. We will have a total of 8, and I wrote this down on notes that I think I intended to send you on Friday. We will have 8 full-time, or 8 seasonal help for public works, public service, as well, cemetery, let me say the cemetery, as well as 2 full-time employees at the cemetery. And I know that they had at least 1 hired for the golf course, and they were doing interviews, I believe, yesterday to look at a couple of more to be full staffed for the summer at the cemetery. In comparison, especially on the cemetery, last year we only had 4 to 5 seasonal laborers, and we struggled to keep 3 or 4 on an average week. So we're going to be, we'll have double that staff. We have a full-time position that's open. We chose not to fill that currently, to use some of those funds to hire a couple more seasonal laborers.
And last year, I think I remember too, there being talk about some of the people being pulled off of the cemetery, working on other projects. Are some of these people going to be earmarked specifically for the cemetery to keep up on the?
Well, that is the idea for yeah.
Okay.
There's something else seemed like someone asked me to ask you, but I seemed to forgot what it was.
I just wanted to add, I was reached out to by quite a few people in town. I saw some discussion online today about the condition of the tennis courts at LeClaire. I know with the Parks Board, that's probably a good opportunity. They may already have been considering that.
What?
we keep bringing up stuff that costs money, and we don't have any money.
I'm just asking if that's part of their,
I can assure you that that is well on their radar.
these are things being brought up by the public, so
Yeah,
I'm just
right.
passing it forward.
Right.
We have some, apparently have some avid tennis players among that.
Well, I
that
mean,
park
just
board.
from a high school standpoint, we can't even host meets here, I'm told, because of the conditions.
I understand that. And I did receive a letter regarding the tennis courts and wanting to know what the status was or what thought, if it was on the park board's radar. I can assure you that it is. However, Commissioner Taylor alluded to it. It will be an expensive endeavor to replace that, and
How about USD? They're wanting to have.
Do we have cost estimates? I mean, we say expensive.
we
know
do
that?
have, we do have some cost estimates, and there's some disagreement on the board as to what level of rehabilitation it needs, whether you would just wipe it out and start over, or could you resurface it?
Yeah.
What could be done? But I know this is something that Public Service looked into 3 or 4 years ago and had costs. And but I can assure you that they're looking at it. And to Commissioner Martin's comment, that was my reply, that to be financially viable, this has to be multi-entities.
Sure.
The city, the rec department, USD 445. Private fundraising, grants if possible. Currently, there are 6 courts. We need to decide whether that's even feasible. Do we need 6 courts? Could we go on a lesser scale?
I'm sure we could.
I remember this is the time of year that we are going to enter into negotiations with the college in reference to the stadium.
Correct.
Where are we at on that?
It has not went any farther than me reading the agreement and looking to get some input from staff as to what, if anything, needs to be tweaked with that. I have not spoken with Jeff Leiker at all about the agreement, and I believe it's June 30th. We're in that window. June 30th is when it automatically renews.
Have we provided them notice that we wish to open the negotiations?
Honestly, no. Really, just I needed to review it to see what it even consisted of, and then again, like getting some input from staff as to what changes they may suggest, or
Can we have that contract sent to each one of these commissioners?
Sure.
And I think that it needs to be addressed on what the commission then thinks that needs to be addressed in that contract.
Okay.
I like that idea, Chris.
Yep.
We talked about it a little bit a year ago, before you were here.
Yeah. Nope,
There was some discussion about it.
I'll have it sent to you.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments from commissioners? We do have an executive session for non-elected personnel. Okay, so I move to adjourn to executive session for the discussion of non-elected personnel not to exceed 5 minutes, 15 minutes? Okay, after a 5-minute break, not to exceed 15 minutes. So what time is it now?
A motion was made by Mayor Powell and seconded by Commissioner Williams to adjourn to executive session for the discussion of non-elected personnel to reconvene on or before 8:10, and that will be a 5-minute break, and I need you to sign things. All in favor?
Aye.